Howdy y'all, it's Reese, aka Bearman Prime on this April the 8th. Welcome back to my Read the Bible in a Year series. Thank you again for joining me. Card on the top right hand corner for the rest of the playlist, and please hit the like button, that subscribe button, and that notification bell. Sure do appreciate it. So yesterday we continued the story of David's family as he rules Israel and Judah, and we saw the unfortunate incident that occurred with his firstborn son Amnon and his and Amnon's sister, half sister Tamar, the sister of Absalom, and how Amnon raped his sister Tamar. Now let's see how things turn out. Let's go over to 2 Samuel chapter 13 today, beginning in verse 20. Then Tamar's brother Absalom said to her, "Have you been with your brother Amnon? Did he hurt you? Now calm down, sister. Amnon is your brother, so we will take care of this. Don't let it upset you too much." So Tamar did not say anything. She quietly went to live at Absalom's house. King David heard the news and became very angry, but he did not want to say anything to upset Amnon because he loved him since he was his firstborn son. Absalom began to hate Amnon. Absalom did not say one word, good or bad, to Amnon, but he hated him because Amnon had raped his sister Tamar. Verse 23. 2 years later, Absalom had some men come to Baal Hazor to cut the wool from his sheep. He invited all the king's sons to come and watch. Absalom went to the king and said, "I have some men coming to cut the wool from my sheep. Please come with your servants and watch." King David said to Absalom, "No, son, we will not all go. It will be too much trouble for you." Absalom begged David to go. David did not go, but he did give his blessing. Absalom said, "If you don't want to go, please let my brother Amnon go with me." King David asked Absalom, "Why should he go with you?" Absalom kept begging David. Finally, David let Amnon and all the king's other sons go with Absalom. Verse 28. Then Absalom gave this command to his servants: "Watch Amnon. When he is drunk and feeling good from the wine, I will give you the command. You must attack Amnon and kill him. Don't be afraid of being punished. After all, you will only be obeying my command. Now, be strong and brave." So Absalom's young soldiers did what he said. They killed Amnon. But all of David's other sons escaped. Each son got on his mule and escaped. Verse 30. The king's sons were still on their way into town, but King David got a message about what happened. But the message was, "Absalom has killed all the king's sons. Not one of the sons was left alive." King David tore his clothes and lay on the ground. All of David's officers standing near him also tore their clothes. But then Jonadab, the son of David's brother Shemaiah, said, "Don't think that all the king's sons were killed. Only Amnon is dead. Absalom has been planning this from the day that Amnon raped his sister Tamar. My lord and king, don't think that all of your sons are dead. Only Amnon is dead." Absalom ran away. There was a guard standing on the city wall. He saw many people coming from the other side of the hill and went to tell the king. So Jonadab said to King David, "Look, I was right. The king's sons are coming." The king's sons came in just after Jonadab said that. They were crying loudly. David and all of his officers began crying. They all cried very hard. David cried for his son every day. Absalom ran away to Talmai, son of Ammihud, the king of Geshur. After Absalom had run away to Geshur, he stayed there for 3 years. King David was comforted after Amnon died, but he missed Absalom very much. Alright, so first, let's address what I feel is probably going to be the elephant in the room in this situation. That is David's reaction to all of this. So it kind of sounds like that David just didn't do anything about what Amnon did. He was willing to just kind of overlook it, push it aside, and pretend it didn't happen. And that may be partially true, but let's really look at this for a second, okay? So it does say in verse 21 that King David heard the news and became very angry. So obviously he was upset with Amnon. He was very upset at what he did. Okay. And then it says he did not want to say anything to upset Amnon because he loved him since he was his firstborn son. So I can see two scenarios here that kind of tell us why David might have done what he did or didn't do what he did. And the first part of it is David is a man after God's heart. He followed the Lord all of his life and tried to live for him and obey him in all assets. And part of that is the forgiveness of sins. God is a merciful God. He is a God of forgiveness. And it could be that this is showing us a picture of God's forgiveness. Despite the terrible thing, let's make no mistake, this is a terrible thing, an awful thing that Amnon did. Despite that, David was still showing forgiveness to him or willing to forgive him. Now, that doesn't mean that we just let it go. Okay, that doesn't mean that God just forgets necessarily all of our sins. It still happens. Okay, but forgiveness means that they're not going to hold it against us. God doesn't hold our sin against us because he has forgiven us through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now, does that mean we have license to sin after we're forgiven? No, of course not. Does that mean that there are not consequences for our sin? No, of course not. There are always consequences for our sin. Whether it comes from God or whether it comes from man, doesn't matter. There are consequences, okay? So, in a sense, David might be showing us a picture of what God's forgiveness is like, in that he's not holding it against Amnon necessarily. He's choosing to forgive him, even though it is a horrible, horrible thing he did. It really doesn't matter what the sin is, whether it's, rape, whether it's murder, whether it's theft, doesn't really matter. All sin can be forgiven. Okay. Now, on the other hand, though, the other way I can see this happening is that David's one of those parents where he loves his child too much. He says that he didn't want to do anything. The text specifically says that he didn't want to say anything to Amnon because he loved him since he was his firstborn. Okay, so if we take the text, more literally, he wasn't coming at this from a place of forgiveness because that's what God wanted him to do, but rather he was coming at this from a parent who does not want to, upset their child or have anything bad happen to their child because they love them too much, kind of like a helicopter parent. They're always making sure that they stay safe and nothing's wrong with them. And Amnon, he did a bad thing, but David's like, no, no. I mean, we're just gonna sweep this under the rug. It's all gonna be good. No problem here. No problem here. Okay. So that may be the case here too. I'm not really sure, but in either case, what we do know is this: David did not take action, and in Absalom's eyes, that was unacceptable. And so, therefore, Absalom took matters into his own hands, and we see what happened there. He brought Amnon out to an isolated place, all of the king's sons in an isolated place, and ended up having Absalom murdered. Okay, so it's kind of like, and so Absalom is now directly responsible for not only fratricide, but also regicide in a sense, where he murdered the heir to David's throne, the firstborn heir to David's throne. And of course, this is going to start a chain of events in Absalom's life and in the history of Israel that's just going to continue to kind of roll downhill from there. So we'll pick it up there tomorrow. Thank you again for joining me. I sure do appreciate it. See you tomorrow.